Welcome to the Craft of Coaching podcast, where we dive into what it truly takes to become a skilled, confident life coach. I'm your host, Kate, head of the CLCC, or Certified Life Coach Collective, an ICF accredited Level 1 coach training program. We combine courage, coaching, and community to offer you more than just a training program, but a life-changing experience where you use your own personal transformation as the learning ground for supporting your clients. On this podcast, we explore how you can use coaching skills to support your clients or expand your own growth, all grounded in evidence-based coaching practices. Learn more about our program and get free resources for becoming a life coach at teamclcc.com. And now, here's today's episode. Ooh boy, today we are going to talk about a really sneaky pattern, one that even experienced coaches fall into, and it's this: thinking that you're being supportive when what you're really doing is people-pleasing. Yeah, we're going to go there because it's really easy to say that you're being a supportive coach, but what if deep down you're being supportive because you don't want to feel uncomfortable, because you don't want your client to feel like they are not getting support from you? What if your support is actually a form of people-pleasing to stay safe, to stay liked, to make the client think that you're team client? And of course you are team client if you're supporting your clients. But there's a way you can go into that where maybe you're not nudging on your clients in the way that they need some nudging. Maybe those times where, somebody isn't really following through on what they said they're going to do, and they offer the nice, tastiest little excuse sandwich, and you pat them on the back and tell them, yep, that's right. You've got all the reasons for why you didn't follow through. This is a shadow side conversation that pretty much no coach wants to admit to. But if you want to grow as a coach, if you want to truly serve your clients, you got to learn the difference. So let's talk about what people-pleasing looks like in a coaching session. It's usually very subtle. It might sound like this: well, I didn't push that topic because, she seemed really tired. It was a big week. Or letting your client vent for 45 minutes of a 60-minute session because you don't want to cut them off. Or not bringing up a pattern that you notice because you don't want to sound judgmental. And what you tell yourself is that you're being a supporter, you're being compassionate. But if you were really honest, you didn't speak up because you're conflict avoidant. You're people-pleasing. You're afraid of being disliked. And if you recognize yourself here, this is not a shame that I'm trying to throw onto you. This is an opportunity for you to go, oh, okay, it's this thing I'm doing, because it makes your coaching less effective. And certainly, if your interest is in self-protection, being liked, that's a focus on you. And one of the core tenets of coaching is that we want to be client-centered. So let's talk about ICF Core Competencies. And some of the coaching competencies, I think, call this out to some degree, like the competency of cultivating trust and safety. Trust is built on honesty, not appeasement. If I'm going to spend my hard-earned money on coaching and go to someone and say, I need support, please, gently, kindly, don't yell at me, but please talk to me about the places where I get in my own way. Or the core competency of maintaining presence. For a coach to maintain presence means that you notice your own discomfort. You notice where I feel a pull to say something to this person and then I'm just not doing it. What's that about? Listening actively. Are you listening to what's not being said? Are you listening and hearing the client's same old pattern, playing it out, and you're afraid to say something about it? And then there's the core competency of evoking awareness. You can't support your client to evoke awareness if you're avoiding the truth. Supporting your clients means being real with them. It means noticing when you're holding back and being willing to explore why. So let's get into a real life example that's very common in coaching. Let's say that your client is spinning in the same story or internalized narrative week after week after week, and you nod along, you empathize, you validate. And you do that because you think, I'm being supportive. But there's a deeper question to look at here, which is, what is that story holding in place for them? There's a great question that the coach Jerry Colonna asks, which is, where am I complicit in creating the conditions that I say I don't want? Boom, right? Where am I complicit in creating the conditions that I say I don't want? There's another question that could be here, this week after week after week thing, when you see that coming up in a session. What is this pattern protecting the client from? Now, if you really want to support the client, especially if something's coming up week after week after week, real support might sound like you as the coach saying, I want to pause for a minute. Can we zoom out and ask, what keeps this pattern in place? I've heard you talk about this over several sessions. What do you think's going on that this is coming up as often as it does? Share more. It's not a judgment. It's a let's play with it. Let's get curious. Let's explore. If you have been letting the pattern, the story, whatever it is that's coming up over and over and over, roll on because you're afraid of disrupting the vibes, that is people pleasing. That is you managing the client's experience instead of trusting the coaching process and really trusting that the client can rumble with, can play with, can explore feelings of discomfort, feelings of having to look in the mirror, so to speak, at their own patterns and processes. Now, I also want to normalize something else. This tendency for coaches is very common. I would say especially for women, especially for empaths. Many coaches, especially women, empaths, were socialized to be agreeable, to be nurturing, to be conflict averse. There's even getting rewarded for being the helper, the nice one, the one who doesn't rock the boat. So if that is part of your path, of course it's going to show up in your coaching. One of the things that makes the Certified Life Coach Collective or CLCC program so powerful is that we don't just teach you coaching skills, we also are asking you to look at yourself. So you're going to go into your coaching relationships through the self-work that you do in our program, knowing like, oh yeah, I got some patterns of people pleasing and here's how they might show up for me as a coach. That awareness is really important because being a truly supportive coach is going to mean letting go of the need to be liked. It means being willing to say something that might not land easily because it's not comfortable for your client, but trusting that your client has a capacity to hear it. There are some other signs that maybe you're people pleasing more in a session than coaching. And so I want to give a couple more red flags. One would be feeling exhausted after sessions, not because of depth or space holding, but because you were overly accommodating, because you were doing some kind of constant mental gymnastics to try to make whatever was happening in the session be okay. Another sign, hesitation to ask bold questions, feeling the question rise up in you, wanting to ask the question and not doing it. After a session, another flag would be secretly fearing that your client will fire you if you challenge them. And of course, people pleasers, I think when you pay attention to that pattern, we know, come on. You know when you're overriding your intuition in favor of being nice. You know when something in you, there's some kind of a internalized voice or some kind of a somatic feeling, a feeling of like I'm kind of constrained right now, or a tightness over your heart, or some kind of somatic sensation that tells you, I'm holding back right now. And when we people please, we confuse their comfort with their growth. Your job as a coach is not to end every single session getting a gold star and a pat on the back. Sometimes your clients are not going to like what it is you have to say. And If you don't want them to, if the fear is that, oh, they'll fire me, they won't want to be with me, they won't want to, have me be their coach anymore. I think really it's about how are you delivering the message? Because absolutely, I personally would fire a client where if I'm doing the same pattern every single week, if a coach says, if the person I'm paying to be in the coach role says something like, Kate, I got to be honest with you. I'm pretty sick of you saying this. You say this every single week, and I'm so fed up with hearing it. I just am like, when are you going to get sick of it? No. Coaches need to build rapport, create trust, hold empathy for the space and the process that I'm in. And guess what? I'm not a robot, and I might need to bring something to sessions multiple times before I finally get to a place where I can move through it. I probably will do that faster if I am called in rather than called out. So sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to be mean. But there's a difference between being unkind and confronting with kindness. And we actually have a whole module in CLCC on confronting with kindness, because that is a very common fear that people have of like, I want to tell someone, here's what I'm seeing, but I'm worried they'll be mad. Yep, let's talk about it. Confronting with kindness. So how do you shift back into authentic support as a coach? Well, first, name it and claim it. Pause, name it. Ooh, note for yourself. Yikes, I think I'm people pleasing right now. And then ask yourself, what would true support look like for this client? So if you notice it in the moment and you can do that shift, great. You're more likely to notice it when you have a couple of sessions that just don't quite feel good. And after the fact, you're going, okay, I need to do something different. So I think I was people pleasing in that session. What would true support look like in this moment? And true support for a client does not even always have to be a challenge. Maybe support is going to be a moment of silence. You just said XYZ to me, and I've noticed you've said variations of this before. What if we just sit with that for a minute? Think about that. Repeat it in your head a couple times. What if sitting in silence and just asking a client to sit with what it is that they're saying to you, and then asking them what comes up is the thing that has them go, you know what's coming up for me is I'm realizing I have talked to you about this so many times, and I kind of am tired of talking about it, and I want to know what you think. What are you noticing about what am I doing here? And then that opens up a whole inquiry that you can go into with your client around what is underpinning all of this. Maybe you're going to need to ask a question and out yourself. I'm noticing that there's a question that I've thought of asking before and I've hesitated to ask it. But today I'm wondering if it would be okay if I did. That's what actually starts to shift the energy. It's bringing bravery and courage to the coaching process and a lot of trust between you and the client in a relational process where it might not always be easy, but they have to know that you're in their corner, even to the degree where you're willing to say something that could really help them that might also be a little uncomfortable. Being supportive is not about staying soft. It's about staying true. Being supportive is not about making everybody feel all cozy, like you've tucked them in with like a little blankie and like it's all good. If I'm hiring you as a coach, I've hired you to walk with me as I grow. And that means letting go of performance. Let go of a performance of support and step into the presence of support, the truest support. Your clients are going to appreciate it, I think, in the long run. And thankfully, I'm seeing much more of a shift away from the so-called tough love coaching that was very popular for coaching in the 90s and the 00s. That type of coaching where I'm just going to call it like it is. I'm going to tell you straight, if you're messing up your life, I'm going to call you out. Nobody needs that, really. That isn't actually the best container for somebody's transformation. So I'm not suggesting that you go in that direction. I'm suggesting that you find ways to notice what your process is as a coach, where you go into people pleasing and to decide to make a different choice because it's not about you. It's not about your comfort. It's about supporting your clients with the growth that they're trying to create in their own lives. All right, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Before you go, would you help us out and take a moment to give us a rating in iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you're listening? It really helps us get the word out to other listeners. And before you go today, would you like free resources to support your coaching journey? Whether you're considering becoming a coach or you want advanced coach skills training, access our coaching resource library at teamclcc.com. Again, that's teamclcc.com. Can't wait to connect with you. And again, thanks for listening.